What if Ahsoka used the world between worlds to save Anakin? Let's explore the depths of the scenario in this video. Ahsoka stares at the portrait of the Mortis gods. The portal looks exactly like Ezra described it. Somehow, she has found a second portal. Perhaps the only one left in the galaxy after Ezra destroyed the one on Lothal. Her first instinct is to destroy it. So long as this portal remains, it will be a threat, as Palpatine will use it to secure his rule over the galaxy. But at the same time, she thinks about the possibilities, especially as she thinks of her former master. Before she realizes it, Ahsoka begins tapping on its surface and watches the hands move to activate the portal. She leaps into the portal and stands on the shadowy bridgeway atop a void. The bridge branches off in dozens of directions, with hundreds of portals. As she takes in everything around her, Ahsoka wanders through the world between worlds. While walking, she hears the voices of her past talking to her, calling to her. The loudest are Rex, Obi-Wan, Plo Koon, and Anakin. She sees them too, as each of the portals shows glimpses into her life, from Master Plo finding her all the way up to her fateful duel with Anakin. Although she keeps her composure, Ahsoka is in awe of what she sees and begins feeling the power of this place calling to her. Voices become louder and more frantic, the most emphatic of them being Anakin himself. Her former master calls to her, shouting for help. She tries desperately to shake those thoughts from her head.
No, you're not real. I need to get out of here.
Ahsoka turns and prepares to leave, but the images begin to shift. From her own memories, she begins to see Anakin's past. She watches Anakin's entire life unfold before her eyes, and to her horror, she sees the darkness grow in him as Palpatine continues to claw his way into his heart. Eventually, she watches as Anakin prepares to follow Mace, who leads a strike force to confront the Chancellor. Ahsoka knows this moment and senses the power in the Force hinging on this moment. It's like a scale sliding back and forth, screaming for balance. The sound bangs in her head, and without thinking, Ahsoka reaches out and grabs her master, pulling him into the portal before he reaches Palpatine's office. Anakin stumbles across the ground and looks around, but his eyes narrow at Ahsoka when she begins getting up. Ahsoka, what are you doing? You should be on Mandalore.
It's a long story, but I'll explain everything. What matters is you can't help Palpatine.
Ahsoka explains where they are and how she brought him here. Anakin's eyes widen and he feels a shiver down his spine. So, being able to change time, prevent death, it's all possible. Without Palpatine. His voice trails off as he recalls what he was about to do. Suddenly, he grabs Ahsoka by her shoulders and shakes her. I don't need Palpatine now. I can overthrow him and stop him from taking control of the Republic. His eyes light up excitedly at the prospects. He can save Padme, maybe even save his mother. Ahsoka sees this look and frowns. She's about to tell him the dangers of this place, when suddenly cackling echoes across the darkness.
Anakin, my boy, I must say you look much better than you have in years.
You! A portal in front of them opens and reveals the withered form of Emperor Palpatine. He stands over a cauldron of blue fire, watching the pair from underneath his hood. A smile curves onto his face.
Me. I've searched many years for this place, and all it took was one foolish Jedi. For that service, I will let you go. Simply step aside and no harm will come upon you.
Like that will happen. Anakin draws his lightsaber and smiles. He was planning to stop the Chancellor anyway, once he got the knowledge to save Padme. Now that he knows about the world between worlds, Anakin doesn't need him anymore. Ahsoka seems less certain, and looks back at the portal she came from. She realizes that she should have destroyed the portal when she had the chance, but there's no time for that now, as Palpatine channels a bolt of lightning from his cauldron. Anakin blocks this first attack and advances forward. However, the Emperor follows up with more attacks. Lightning rains on Anakin, halting his advance. Once he slows down, Palpatine begins to channel the blue flame forward, letting it creep up towards Anakin. With the lightning keeping him occupied, the fire begins to close around him. Suddenly, Ahsoka leaps in between them and uses the Force to shove the flames back. Some of it singes her arms, but she ignores the pain and finishes extinguishing the fire. This buys a moment of respite for Ahsoka to grab her master by the arm and run off. As they run, something grabs their legs. They see shadowy hands reaching out and trying to pull them off the edge. One manages to grab Ahsoka, but the hand is sliced off at the wrist by Anakin. Now we're even. After a while, the hands disappear entirely, allowing the two to catch their breath.
His powers. They must not reach here. I guess he hasn't managed to spread his influence yet.
Good. That means we can stop him now before he takes control of this place. He starts to get up and makes his way back the way they came. Ahsoka grabs his hand, pointing down another path she's entered.
Anakin, we can't risk this power falling into Palpatine's hands. We have to destroy the portal and cut it off at the source.
Anakin watches the different portals shimmering around him, watching the events play out in his life. For the first time, he notices the voice swirling around him. He hears his mother calling to him, pleading with him to come back. It's soon joined by Padme and Obi-Wan. The last voice to call out to him is Ahsoka, but not this Ahsoka. It was from a memory. The time when Ahsoka was put on trial for the bombing of the Jedi Temple. She tells him how much she needs him. The voice is like a knife through his heart as he thinks back on his failure. More memories flash across his mind. The blue shadow virus outbreak, Obi-Wan's faked assassination, and more. All the reminders of the times he failed to protect those dearest to him. The voices soon blend into one incomprehensible mess, filling Anakin's mind until he lets out a scream. The Force flows through him, sending a shockwave across the void. When Ahsoka gets up, she sees her master, the Force flickering around him, glowing a pale blue that matches his lightsaber. He steps over Ahsoka and begins to make his way back the way he came. Ahsoka tries to call him back, but her master ignores her pleas and advances ahead. As they return to the portal, things have changed. While the portal remains shining, there is a dark aura emanating around it, dark tendrils forming around the bridge. Palpatine remains there at the portal, chanting over his cauldron while Anakin approaches. He only looks up once the Jedi draws his lightsaber and begins to laugh.
Welcome back, my boy. I knew you would return. Though I sense you will not be joining me.
Not unless you count me coming there and killing you.
We shall see about that.
Snarling, Anakin sprints across the bridge, slicing through the shadowy hands that get in his way. Most of them fall quickly, and the rest are shattered by another shockwave of the Force. Those furthest back lash out at Ahsoka, who fights her way towards her master. Palpatine waits until Anakin is near before unleashing another torrent of lightning. This time the bolt is wider, and some residual energy gets through and causes Anakin to stumble. As the lightning stops, a whip of shadows lash out at Anakin and strike him across the back. He screams in pain, but manages to catch the whip in his hand before it can strike again and slashes it apart. He manages to leap up and stumble aside from another burst of lightning. Palpatine throws attack after attack at him, forcing Anakin to defend. He manages to block the lightning, but he deflects the latest attack near the portal. Palpatine unleashes a surprise. Anakin leaps towards the Sith Lord, his body just a few feet away from him. Suddenly, Palpatine unleashes an ear-splitting shriek that echoes through the world between worlds and throws Anakin back. He falls to the ground and clutches his ears, feeling the sound reverberate in his head. As he tries to shake it off, something else begins creeping across his body. Anakin's eyes widen as fear buries itself into his chest while the voices return, filling him with doubt and betrayal.
I've watched so many of my brothers fall during this war.
This baby will change our lives.
You were my brother, Anakin!
I love...
He tries to fight through the pain and step forward, but his legs give way and he drops to the ground. Palpatine watches this and smiles. The fires around him grow brighter, and one tendril forms a hand to grab Anakin. It wraps around his leg and begins to pull him closer, dragging him towards the portal. Another scream cuts through the darkness as Ahsoka leaps through the shadows. Cutting through the shadowy hands and cutting the tendril, Palpatine hisses in pain, but already begins channeling another attack. This time, a pillar of fire explodes through the portal, spiraling its way towards them. Ahsoka redirects the attack using the Force, letting the fire fork past them. Anakin manages to sit up as he groans. Save yourself, Snips. It's over. I can't change fate. Ahsoka glances back, careful to avoid being distracted by the fire.
No, you can't. But that's no reason to give up the fight against Palpatine.
He's too powerful. I can't beat him. I've made too many mistakes.
Your mistakes made you who you are. Look around. Not just at the individual moments, but everything all together. All of that brought you here, now.
Anakin looks up at the portals, watching as they begin replaying his life. All the victories and failures he's experienced flash before his eyes. He sees his mother dying, but sees it bring him and Padme together. There are his many arguments with Obi-Wan, but also him learning to do what is right. And then he sees Ahsoka, how he could barely tolerate her, but also how they forged a lifelong bond. But I've turned into a monster. You said it yourself.
No. Not fully, at least. You've done bad things. But I remember when I fought you on Malachor. I saw good in you. Palpatine could never kill it.
As she speaks, the fire around them grows more intense, so much that Ahsoka can't hold it back. Just as it's about to overwhelm her, Anakin steps forward and dissipates the flames. Well, if I can't stop Palpatine before, I can at least finish Palpatine here. The only response was laughter, as a collection of shadows leap out and form around the portal entrance. It creates the silhouette of a man holding a lightsaber. It takes a moment for the features to form into the face of Palpatine, who smiles. Palpatine's shadowy form surges forward, tendrils of dark energy lashing out. Ahsoka and Anakin move in unison, their lightsabers deflecting the attacks. Ahsoka somersaults over the dark tendril, her sabers slicing through the shadowy manifestation. Anakin feints to the side and then lunges forward, cracking Palpatine's defenses. Palpatine's laughter grows more frenzied, but there's a hint of desperation.
You cannot defeat me. I am eternal.
A dozen tendrils emerge from his form and all lunge at them at once. The two stand back to back and begin cutting their way forward just as Palpatine's lightsaber meets them. They cross their weapons and begin pushing him back until the tips of their weapons touch his form. Palpatine hisses as he feels the heat rubbing against him. He twists his lightsaber and tries to counterattack. Anakin steps forward and takes the attack, blocking them while Ahsoka presses forward and pushes her blades in deeper, only to withdraw and take Anakin's place when Palpatine attacks. The two press the attack. Ahsoka's sabers flash, severing the dark energy that binds Palpatine's form. Anakin's blade follows, striking the heart of the shadow. Palpatine's scream echoes through the world between worlds. In a final desperate move, Palpatine lunges at them, his form shifting and writhing. Ahsoka and Anakin move as one, their blades piercing the dark heart of the Sith Lord's avatar. Palpatine's shadowy form convulses, then begins to disintegrate, the dark energy unraveling.
No, this cannot be.
With one last effort, Ahsoka and Anakin thrust the remains of the shadow into the void below. The darkness is consumed by the endless expanse, vanishing into the abyss. Breathing heavily, Ahsoka and Anakin stand side by side, their lightsabers extinguished. The world between worlds is silent once more.
We did it. We actually did it. Thanks to you, Ahsoka. You saved me.
No, Anakin. We saved each other.
The two of them share a smile as they catch their breath and look at the world between worlds. Seeing the darkness vanish, the place looks much more peaceful. But they both realize they cannot stay and begin to make their way back to their respective portals. As Anakin leaves, he glances back towards his student.
And Ahsoka,
Yes, Master?
promise to save me where you are from.
Ahsoka stares at him for a moment and gives him a solemn nod.
I will, Master.
That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.